And welcome to Alouettes Flightdeck, podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football. I am Tim Capper. You can find me on X at Repact. That's REPPACT.
And I'm Cliffy D. You can also find me on X over at Cliffy D.
And we want to thank the presenting sponsor for this podcast. It is our friends over at SportBuff, where if you use the promo code OwlsFlightDeck10 at checkout, you will save 10% off in your entire order. So head over to sportbuffshop.com, use the code, save 10%, and buy merch from almost any pro or Olympic team, especially Team Canada, especially at this time of the year. And again, support local.
Always support local.
This week could have been very interesting, Cliff, if not for a change in quarterback at halftime, by Coach Moss. Him deciding to make that switch, is easy how we could be talking about how inept this game was through 4 quarters. But yet, because of that said change by Jason Moss, deciding to call on Davis Alexander, to many fans' delight, because I know a lot of people were making their opinions known on social media.
Pleading even.
Yes. And we were able to come away with that 20-6. I don't want to call it an improbable win, but I mean, considering the score was 16-3 at halftime, the Alouettes were able to win 20-16 and improve to 6-1.
Yeah. This was billed as like sort of a clash of the Titans, like the best of the West versus the best of the East. And, someone was going to walk out of this game with a 6-1 record, and someone was going to go 5-2. Lo and behold, I mean, we talked about this before, a tale of two halves. If you were to go strictly by that first half of football, the Riders had it in the bag. I mean, they just simply literally ran over the Alouettes. I mean, they just couldn't get anything going. Caleb Evans under center just wasn't clicking. It just, there's nothing doing there. And you're right. Whether it's fans, whether it's media members, anyone else watching the CFL, you're just like, put Davis Alexander in. What's the worst that could happen? Well, as you said, let's give credit to Coach Moss for recognizing that it just wasn't Caleb's night. He's not a bad quarterback, folks. He's just, I wish I had a more simpler explanation. It just wasn't his night. But Jason Moss recognized that down 16-3 at the half, he had to make a change. He had to do something. He had to light a fire under this team. And the best way to do it is to go to number 10, tap him on the shoulder, say, "It's your show now, kid. Let's see what you can do." And Davis Alexander, the moment that he's been waiting for, ever since 2022, we've been waiting we were waiting for Davis Alexander to have the opportunity to go and do something special. And boy, howdy, did he ever do something special. He came in to this game against the Riders and basically woke the Alouettes the F up. And what a performance. What an absolute performance by Davis Alexander, helping the Alouettes secure their 6th win of the season, going 6-1, and they are unquestionably the top team in the Canadian Football League right now.
This is a Davis Alexander, as we've known. We've seen the story. We've read the story. I'm sure as we put out on social earlier this week, if anybody went back into our archives to listen to our interview with him back in 22, really the first real action for Davis since that nothing game in Toronto at the end of the season in 22, where it was,
it was a glorified preseason game.
Yeah. I'm glad it wasn't here. Yeah. So it just shows how much this kid has grown as a pro, as a quarterback, as a teammate.
Mm-hmm. And let's not forget, he has been the ultimate teammate, without question. I mean, we saw what he was able to do in 2 preseasons. Well, actually, no, 3 preseasons now. We know how talented this kid is. It was just simply a matter of getting the opportunity to showcase it. And give him credit. He was ready to go. Like some people, they talk about, oh, I got to get ready, or I got to stay ready so I don't have to get ready. That's always the rallying cry. Like that's what people have come to expect because you never know when your number is going to get called, and you got to be ready to go. And it's cliched, but it's also true. You do have to be ready to go at a moment's notice. And sure enough, Davis was ready to go. He stepped into the game, and you would have never guessed that he was a rookie. I mean, he's not a rookie because this is his third season, but at the same time, as you said, this is his first meaningful action. Like this isn't mop up duty. This isn't just try to kill the clock, or as it was a couple weeks ago against Toronto, or he literally just came in to take a knee, which I was so insulted by that, and a lot of people were insulted by that. Like, that's what you're going to do with Davis Alexander? Now you put him into the game just to take a knee? Give me a break. But no, this was the first opportunity he had to showcase what he could do, to do the things that he was able to do in preseason and in training camp, the stuff that we saw that set us like tongues a wagging, like, holy cow, this guy's got some talent. Okay, this guy's going to be something special. We knew this, Tim. We knew what he was able to do. It was just simply a matter of he just has to have the chance to showcase it, to show everybody what he's able to do. And he got that last Thursday. And let me tell you, a lot of people, league-wide, nationwide, took notice. Everybody sat up like, who the hell is this guy? Who is this Davis Alexander? Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Now you know who Davis Alexander is. And I'm telling you right now, Cody Fajardo goes down to injury. That's who's coming into the game. That's who's going to get the win. That's who's going to be your next potential superstar in this league.
Dude started off, and we had to check the stats there for a while because we were, like we were able to keep track of the stats during the game itself. I mean, he started off 12 for 12, 12 for 12, and it really didn't seem like it was going to start off well, because if people remember, basically I think it was either the first or the second play under center, you get a defender almost trying to decapitate him, and because of how mobile Davis is, he was able to duck. I mean, go back and watch it. I mean, it's like it's the defenders come up, swipes, and just completely misses. Thank God. He
was slippery, and my God, not only did he get out of trouble, having to adjust his face mask in the process as he was getting himself reoriented, he still managed to throw a dart like 30 yards downfield to move the chains. Like, what? Like, again, a lot of people were just sitting around us, like, jaws dropped. Like, and again, we were still surprised too. Like, we knew he could do this, but it's to actually see it live happening in front of you, you're dumbfounded. Like, holy cow! Like that. But then immediately you realize this is what we've come to expect. We spoke this into existence. We knew, just based on what we saw in training camp and in preseason the last couple of years, we knew he could do this. And now he's actually doing it. Like that. Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Davis was perfect for the night when it comes to efficiency rating. I mean, for the game itself, Cliff, I mean, he was 15 of 18 of starting, as I said, starting 12 for 12, 178 yards and 2 touchdowns. Longest pass was 31 yards, 2 over 30. And again, it's, I joked around. I was talking with Steve Daniel, Cliff, the stats CFL stats guru that he is, and I said, is there any way, like in baseball, that we can get, if you come in relief, you can get a win? Because you did point out to me after the game that Caleb because he started, is going to get the win,
which is also why QB wins is not a stat, folks, because and again, I don't mean to be disparaging towards Caleb. I mean, yes, he got the win, but at the same time, he didn't contribute to the win like that. And I'll say it again. It was not his night. He didn't bring his best stuff, and it didn't work. And it happens. Okay. When it comes to short yardage, absolutely Caleb's your guy. But as we saw this past Thursday, he was not the one to lead this team to the promised land. And yeah, absolutely. In a perfect world, Davis Alexander would have been credited with this win. But because he didn't start the game, he doesn't get the win. That's unfortunately that's how it goes. Is if you start the game, no matter what happens, even if you were knocked out in the first play, and the other guy comes in and wins the game for you, you still get credited with a QB win.
By the way, Davis is 178 yards, Cliff. It's the most passing yards off the bench by a Montreal QB since Trevor Harris had 270 on June 16th, 2022 in relief. That was VA's last ever game to start for the Alouettes. That's the infamous game where he went 2 for 4 and was pulled. On the plus side too, his 170 yards, Cliff, it ranks top 5 off the bench in the last 17 years for Alouettes quarterbacks.
And considering the number of quarterbacks this team has had in the past 10 years, that's no small feat, folks.
Yeah. So, and again, it's just a matter of, obviously, we'll talk about it with the game coming up, but there were some interesting tidbits that occurred with roster moves and stuff like that with Cody Fajardo and Coach Moss doing Coach Moss things when it comes to being coy about who he is and who he isn't going to have to start this week. But I think I think if getting Davis in the 2024 Davis versus 2022, there is a difference. Obviously, right now it's a small subset of information that we're able to base it off of. But if Davis does get the start this week, which we're expecting, versus that Hamilton Tiger Cats, and does just as well, I think the Owls will be, hopefully it'll get the story for Davis bigger. But it also will hopefully put aside any issues or concerns if Cody does happen to be out on a longer time than what it currently is.
And let's not get it twisted, folks. There is no quarterback controversy in Montreal. I mean, it's way too soon to even begin to think about something like that. I mean, this is still Cody Fajardo's football team. Full stop. If you were to ask Davis Alexander, he'd say the exact same thing. This is Cody's football team. He's just keeping the seat warm until number 7 comes back. But I tell you what, though, I mean, everything we've seen from Davis so far, I mean, folks have a reason to be excited. Alouettes Nation has a reason to be very excited with what happened this past Thursday. And I'm telling you, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Davis will get the start on Friday against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and I fully expect him to keep the momentum that he's had. I fully expect him to come in under center, play the full game, barring an injury, and keep doing the things that he's been doing. I mean, wow. I mean, I'm so happy for Davis to be able to get that opportunity, and he's definitely made the most of it so far, and I fully expect that to continue this coming Friday.
Yeah. I mean, you look at what he did in the second half, and obviously there were guys around him, obviously that helped him to achieve this and for to get the Alouettes this win over Saskatchewan. But just 3 drives alone, the scoring drives that the Alouettes had in that second half, I think it was like 7 plays, 8 plays, and then I think it was 13 plays, and just poised. I mean, 2 of those first 2 went to Reggie White Jr. for TDs, obviously giving Davis his first ever CFL passing touchdown. And then I think which was a defining moment in that fourth quarter, Cliff, with the Owls only up by 1, is I think it was a 60 some odd yard drive that took 13 plays and took 7 minutes and 40 seconds off the clock in that fourth quarter. Sure, the Alouettes only came away with a field goal, but still, the stuff that happened in that, there's so many, the weirdest things, from a fumble, an incompletion that turns into a fumble that gets the Alouettes from a punting situation to a 3rd and 1, which they convert.
Yeah.
Which, kudos. Kudos. I don't think I've ever said this openly. Kudos to the command center. That eye in the sky. It didn't have to be challenged. They checked it.
Yeah.
So
And that was the whole point, is that the command center is supposed to step in and catch the things that maybe the referee's eyes don't see initially. So you're absolutely
which
right.
they did. Yeah.
It's crazy to think. And also, too, let's not forget, both coaches used their challenges throughout the game and lost. And even those were kind of like iffy calls at best. I mean, like some of them should have been straightforward, but they ultimately weren't, obviously. But I find it interesting that the CFL Command Center had to sort of step in on a couple of things, and
Yeah.
not so much. I won't say to the Alouettes' benefit, because yes, it did extend their drives, but at the same time, it's more about the fact of getting the call right. And referees are human, folks. I mean, you know, we can boo and hiss and everything like that if the calls don't go the way we want them to. But at the end of the day, they're there to do a job, but they're not perfect. And if the eye in the sky sees something, then yeah, they have the opportunity to buzz in before the play goes off and let them know that, hey, we're going to be taking a look at this. It's not right. So it's not so much a matter of getting it right for your team versus their team. Listen, if something's not right, that's the opportunity to correct it. And I would still like for them to be more transparent in the sense of having to explain why they saw what they saw and why they made the decision to go ahead and stop the game to do a replay, to make sure that if something wasn't kosher, to make sure that it was. So to me,
At least on TV, I agree with you 100%. And they even
yes.
stepped in in the last drive too, where Saskatchewan was driving. They did call illegal participation on the Saskatchewan wide receiver, and they still checked it.
And that was a pivotal play too. I mean, that essentially, depending on how that went, that was either going to give Saskatchewan a chance to, well, they had no choice to go for a touchdown to try and win the game, because there's 25 seconds left. But that was very much a pivotal moment in that game, and they got it right. I mean, illegal participation. I think it was Mitch Picton for Saskatchewan. He stepped out of bounds, came back in to catch the ball. You can't do that, folks. I mean, that happened right in front of us too. So we were right away,
right away, didn't I? I think I literally called it right away.
Yeah, you said it. He's out of bounds. He's out of bounds. And okay, then that's illegal participation. He cannot do that. So, and the fact that again, I guess maybe clearly the referees maybe didn't see it 100%. And in those instances, especially when there's less than 3 minutes left in the game, the command center really does have to step in and make sure that this is the right call, because ultimately that would have affected the match. And lo and behold, yep, legal participation, turnover on downs. Oh no, sorry, it was 3rd and 1. Sorry, and then it became turnover on downs, and Montreal walks out with a W.
Tyson Philpott Cliff led the team in receiving. He had 7 receptions for 88 yards.
Making a comeback, because when Caleb Evans is under center, you almost forgot that Tyson Philpott was on the team. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, did Caleb forget that he had
2
this?
Weeks, I agree. Mm-hmm.
You almost were looking to see if Tyson's picture was on a milk carton, because he was nowhere to be found. But Davis was able to find him. I mean, figure that one out. I mean, like, if you're ignoring Tyson and Philpott, something is terribly, terribly wrong with you.
Charles Rambo 45, Cole Speaker, even though he got a little bit dinged up, I think it was an ankle. He's set for a day this week. 28 yards. Joshua Antwi 5 yards. Walter Fletcher 53, and we were talking to Fletch at the season ticket members event, and again, we were just saying how good he's become, like many have, and I think we've said this before, when it comes to running backs out of the backfield being able to catch the ball. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge part. And obviously that showed, because the running game was non-existent, at least for the Alouettes. And it's funny, you were talking about running, the Owls were run over. That was Saskatchewan's running game in the first half. But the Owls, this is something I hope that they're able to correct, because we know what our running backs can do. It's just that I understand Davis was slinging the ball. I get it, and we had to come back.
Yeah,
but being able to run could have helped take some of that pressure off, and it's something that it's something that really does need. It's one of the few things that I'm really concerned about, at least over the last couple of weeks.
You're absolutely right. That's one thing I will give Davis a lot of credit for, among many things. Was he was able when he was able to step out of the pocket. It wasn't so much in the same sense that Cody Fajardo does, as far as making his reads, doesn't see anything he likes, and he just tucks the ball and run. Whereas Davis was able to get out of the pocket, get flushed out of the pocket, but still able to complete the pass and get the first down. I don't know if it's just the spatial awareness is different between the two quarterbacks, or if it's just simply a matter of the opportunities presented themselves a little bit better for Davis than they would have, say, for Cody or even Caleb Evans. I can't speak to that. But having a running back that can catch the ball for you as well opens up a whole lot of opportunity. Like Davis was able to hand off the ball to Fletch a few times, and he got a couple of nice runs, but where you got to see the true talent and the I like to say the Swiss Army knife of the backfield in Walter Fletcher. You got to see him be that dual threat. Yeah, he can run the rock, but he can also catch too and get the yards after catch, get the yak. And that's really where you see, like, not that they have the most valuable player necessarily league wide, but you get to see the value in having someone like a dual threat, if you will, in Walter Fletcher. And he has been on one all year long, Fletch has, and proving that, yeah, he definitely belongs in this lineup. He definitely belongs as the top running back for this team. But just to be able to know that you can rely on him, whether it's on checkdowns, we call him Captain Checkdown, but I mean, he does it. He does it so well. Watching Walter Fletcher interact with whomever it is behind center, whether it's as a running back or receiver, is just one of those things that just makes this Alouettes offense so incredibly dangerous.
Yeah. The Owls gave up their most sacks, I think, in a single game this past week at 5. But I can understand. I mean, it's two different type of quarterbacks. I do know, yes, Davis did take 3 sacks versus Caleb's 2, but they weren't as egregious. I think they weren't as bad as, it's weird to say. It's the way they were. Davis's sacks weren't as bad and as debilitating than Caleb's were.
Yeah, unfortunately, Caleb's were just backbreaking, and just it
Yeah.
couldn't have come at a worse time. That's the tough part. I think Davis's sacks, at least he was in the red zone, and at least the Alouettes were threatening to score points of some sort. And it's like, oh, just a little bit of that momentum killer. Whereas when Caleb got sacked, it felt like it was way deep in Alouettes territory, and it was just turning a second and long into just an even worse punting situation for the Alouettes. Again, I'm really trying not to pin too much blame on Caleb, but I mean, there was a couple of times where it just felt like, man, it just could get anything going. And it's frustrating because this is the same Caleb Evans that this time last year helped dummy the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Now, again, that win in 2023 was based on the defense and special teams. More so, all Caleb had to do was basically just be a game manager, and he would have gotten the W. Whereas this time around, you were not going to be a game manager against these Saskatchewan Roughriders. They are just too good, and they were prepared for this Alouettes team as well, and they brought the heat onto Caleb many a time. So, yeah, I agree. Those sacks on Caleb were just a little too debilitating, shall we say?
And also, they're also the for some reason the Owls defense was just porous when it came to the running game in the first half. Did they surely shored up in the second? That's for sure. After almost giving up 100 yards of offense, 100 yards rushing in the first half for versus the Saskatchewan. But it's something that needs to be, I think, I'm sure will be addressed. Again, it's a matter of
this is 2 games in a row where. 2 games in a row where the run defense has just been non-existent. I mean, you let the Argos run roughshod over you with Kadeem Carey, and then Frankie Hickson comes in for the Riders. And everybody was worried about AJ Ouellette, but he didn't even play. Frankie Hickson steps in off the practice roster and literally posts nearly 100 yards rushing. Like that's crazy. But give credit to the Alouettes defense. The second half, they slammed the door on Saskatchewan. They tightened it up. They made Shea Patterson's life miserable for that second half, and they got to. Now, mind you, though, Frankie Hickson was still a threat. He still managed to get a few more yards in, but yeah, I mean, To me, that's if there's a chink in the armor when it comes to the Montreal Alouettes, right now it unequivocally has to be the run defense. I mean, I don't know what the fix is. I don't know what you do to tighten it up again, but I mean, it is definitely something that you're going to have to be careful with going forward.
Like, kudos to Avery Ellis, who had both of the Alouette sacks this past week. And kudos to just over 19,500, it was 19,653, I think, who showed up at Percival Molson, speaking with some of the players post-game, Cliff, and I think we mentioned too on Flight Deck Live. It was one hell of an atmosphere. We don't know what it's like. I think we were talking to, who are we talking to? We're talking to somebody post game, and I was like, you know what? You need to get a decibel meter at Percival Molson just to see what it's like and see how loud it is. Yes, we understand that Winnipeg claims that they're the loudest, or Saskatchewan claims that they're the loudest. Let's get a reading of what it's actually like at Percival Molson.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. And so loud was Alouettes Nation this past Thursday that Corey Mace, head coach of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, he had to give props. He had to tip his cap to the fans making the noise. He said for a Thursday night game, less than 20,000, making that kind of noise, it's crazy. Like, he had never heard anything like that. And again, Corey Mace has played in this league a number of times. He's played in Montreal and coached in Montreal last year with the Toronto Argonauts. And I don't think he got to hear. I guess now as a head coach, he gets to see it from a different perspective. But yeah, Alouettes Nation, this is why you make noise on defense. This is why you get loud, you get crazy, and this stadium crew gets it as well. When they get everybody cranked up, when I like to call it Club 514 or the Thunderdome opens, hold on to your butts because it gets loud, it gets crazy, and the atmosphere is second to none. You see the fireflies, you get the music, everything's going. It is deafening, absolutely deafening. In the stands, like I hear, like, you hear the sound, you hear the vibrations and everything. I can just imagine what it's like for the players. And they tell us all the time, it's like, yeah, y'all were crazy out there. It's crazy, like just how loud you guys get. I would love to hear it from that perspective. I'd love to be down on field level just once when that's going on, just to really get a sense of and a feel of what they're hearing, what they get to feel on the field, as opposed to what it's like in the stands.
Allison Sobel, that's who I was talking to, but it was at the season ticket thing. I mentioned the decibel meter. We got to get one, because she actually said, it's like, I know it's loud, and I can't really explain how loud it is. She goes, because I keep getting notifications on my Apple Watch that it's really, really loud.
There you go.
So,
I mean, when you think about, like, being an open air stadium, and even if it's less than 20,000 people, the way the noise carries and just reverberates throughout the entire stadium, it is magical. Folks,
thank
if you have not,
for the MNI. Thank goodness for the MNI over on the far side and in one of the end zones. That helps too. This isn't Big O. This isn't Big O bouncy, concrete, because we have one open end, obviously. But anyway, if we can keep this up, coming up for our next home game in a couple of weeks, get another close to 20,000, get over 20,000. I mean, it is going to be a Saturday night game, buddy. So, I mean, anyways, but that's for a couple. That's for the next show.
No, absolutely. And yeah, just once again, credit to Alouettes Nation for bringing the noise, and you saw what happens when that, I mean, it's going to get to the point where teams are just not going to look forward to coming to play the Alouettes at Percival Molson Stadium, simply because, yeah, it's a tiny little stadium. They're lucky if they get 20,000 fans in there, but man, they get loud. They don't sound like 20,000. They sound like a lot more.
Exactly. As we've been talking about all this time, Cliff, about, being behind center, this week we actually get to talk to a guy who actually is a part of that front line and has a little bit more control than we actually thought about, didn't we?
Yes, you talk about being behind center. This guy is the center. We were so excited. We are being joined this evening by number 54 of the Montreal Alouettes, the center, arguably the quarterback of the offensive line for the Montreal Alouettes, one Justin Lawrence. Being able to chat with him, such a blast. So excited. We've been wanting to have him on for quite some time now, finally making it happen. So yeah, folks, get your popcorn ready. We're going to have a good time chatting with our man, J Law.
And with us on the show this week is, Cliff and I felt we need to start giving the O-line a little bit of love here. And this is the guy that we've seen quite a few times after the game itself, post game on the field, and after practice. And we wanted to pick his brain about what it's like to be a CFL O-lineman, and obviously more than that for this guy. With us on the line now is number 54. Justin Lawrence. I wouldn't know if to call you an offensive lineman or a center, or I didn't know which way to go with that one, Justin.
Hey, honestly, both works. Center, as you said, specific position, but O-line in general, so both work.
Because in theory, you could play anywhere on the line if needed be, right?
Yeah, I think so. Like I've started games in the CFL before at guard. I've never played tackle in a game per se, but I had a couple practice reps here and there. So I think if I had to, I could get it done in a situation, but not my ideal position.
Fair enough.
I'm waiting for Justin's big man touchdown.
Hey, trust me,
thick six.
6 years in the league, and I haven't had a single touchdown. It's crazy.
Now listen, if Jason Moss can come up with the onside punt for Joshua Antwi, don't you think he could figure out some way to get you the thick six?
Hey, honestly, bring back the old fumble Ruski. I'll grab it, snap it, drop it, pick it up, and score a touchdown. I think that's what we should do.
Listen, it's not a new thing in Montreal. I mean, I don't know if you know Ryan Bombin back in the day.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
He used to catch a tutty or two, but every now and again. So it's not so unusual. And believe me, nobody would see it coming.
I know.
And you'd have to report as eligible, right? And they'd be like, "Oh, get the hell out of here! He's not going to catch nothing."
That's always how it works. It's the element of surprise. That's how O-linemen always get touchdowns. Actually, but I had my second year in the CFL as a sixth man, and I was tight end, and we were in a game in Edmonton. And I actually had my first route I've ever ran as a tight end before. And I remember lining up, and literally as I got out there, they're like, "Oh, you might not be covered when you get out there. Hopefully, and we might throw it to you." So I'm in my hometown. I'm pumped. I might get my first catch, in my hometown. It was crazy. I remember lining up, and there was a DB right on me, right from the get-go. And I released I was running a flat, and then he jammed the hell out of me right on the line of scrimmage. I was like, "Oh, this is horrible." So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
It's not all it's cracked up to be, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, the element of surprise is the big one.
Well, listen, if need be, we'll put in a good word with Coach Moss and see if we can't get you some way somehow get you involved in the offense just a little bit more.
I like it, guys. I need all the help I can get on that one.
It's making me sound older by saying this, and Cliff, I'm sure you're going to agree with me. I just looked. Justin was born the same year that the Alouettes returned.
Yeesh.
That's crazy.
I gotta go lie down. My back is hurting now all of a sudden.
Let's take a quick 5.
Wow.
Being a national, obviously, I mean, you went U of A, you played over at Spruce Grove Composite High. Have you always been a football player, Justin? I mean, did you try any other sport? I mean, obviously you're a very large guy, but did you try anything else?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I'm like most kids. When I was younger, I was really trying to find what I was naturally good at. So when I was a kid, I was big into soccer. I played soccer pretty much from when I was little until about high school. And I always enjoyed it, but I kind of knew it wasn't really my thing. I played basketball. I played volleyball. And honestly, my parents one year, I think it was grade 6, put me into football just to try it out. And, I kind of found my knack for it. For my first year of football, I felt like I kind of picked it up pretty quick. And like you said, always I was born a big kid, so I always kind of grew up that way. And I feel like once I got into football, I fit into it well. The size thing helped me a lot, like you said, especially at that age. But, it was one of those things, like I said, I tried sports and I was hoping I'd find something that I kind of naturally fit into. And lucky for me, my parents put me into football and it was a match made in heaven for me. And I fell in love with it as a kid right away.
Was it always O-line, or did you get some D-line, or was it a combination of both?
Yeah, so I actually started as D-line. I think you can ask any O-lineman this, honestly. When I first got into football, every O-lineman wants to play a skill position. Naturally, we all want to play a skill position. So I went in my first day of practice, and I was like, I'm going to be a receiver when I get out there. And here I am. I was probably at that age, even at grade 6, I was probably 200 and some pounds, a big kid. And I'm like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to play receiver. But naturally, they moved me to O-line and D-line. So I kind of played both ways pretty much my whole minor football career and high school career. So I got a taste of both O-line and D-line. Got stuck there.
Did you have any hands at least? Like, were you at least to try to be a receiver?
Absolutely. In one of my minor football leagues, I used to be the jumbo fullback. So I used to score some touchdowns that way. They just hand the ball off to me in the short yardage, get some touchdowns. But I always tell, you can ask anyone on the team. I'll put this claim to anyone that I got the best hands on the team. Throw me a ball, I'm going to catch it. The thing people underestimate about center is I touch the ball the most out of anyone the whole entire season.
Actually, that's true.
Yeah.
That's
so
true.
That's the thing. As center, you're used to giving away the ball, not necessarily catching the ball. So it's I'm sure the first few times you lined up under center, it must have been so weird. Like, no, I'm supposed to catch this, not throw it.
Yeah, this seems like the opposite of what you want to do right now.
Hey, being under center, I mean, obviously the rules have changed drastically when it comes to how they're protecting you as the center, obviously being, and how they've modified the rules. Is it something that you've really gotten used to? Because obviously, when we see you, you're there head down, trying to get a look of the line itself. I'm sure you're trying to make some, get some reads. I'm sure to Cody or some of the guys behind you just in case. But
yep.
What's it like being the guy? Knowing that basically you got a defensive back right in front of you, looking to kill you.
I like it, honestly. The fun thing about center, and I think it's one of those things, like, I think a lot of people steer away from center because center has all the mental pressure of putting people in the right position. Because, basically I walk up to the line, I ID the defense, I try and diagnose if there's going to be a blitz that we can pick up or adjust the pro that way. I think it's a beautiful thing. And like you said, it takes a bit to get used to. When you first start doing it, I'm telling you, it's one of the most stressful positions you can play, probably besides quarterback. But it's fun, man. Like you said, once you kind of get the hang of it and you got a good group around you that you can trust, it's kind of fun being able to walk up, you're with your guys. You call it out, you pick up a certain way. And like you said, I look back at it, like, some of the big moments, the Grey Cup, the touchdown pass to Tyson Philpott. I look at that one, like we picked up a cover zero super perfectly. The guys in the back end were there in the right spots. Like, that's the part that's super satisfying to me as a center, is when you see stuff really get picked up cleanly that most people don't really notice. They think it just happens, but there's a lot of prep work from the coaches giving us a game plan to actually execute on the field. So I think that's a part of the beautiful part of playing center.
So when they say that being sorry, Tim.
I was saying, and you heard the play also, Justin, that they called right before that pass itself. Is it one of those things where you're going to get to touch the ball first? Make sure you get the ball to Cody or whoever's behind center. I'm sure I can imagine how giddy you may have been just by hearing the call that was being called for that potential touchdown, which obviously did win the Alouettes the Grey Cup.
Yep, it is. It's like you said, you always hear the play and you kind of envision it, like that quick split second walk into the line of scrimmage. You envision what's going to happen, and then you walk up, and like the thing people underestimate is there's probably on the defense, there's probably about 8 or 10 different looks you could see as a center that you need to kind of like look at. And you see it, and you kind of, everything starts to align with the protection that we had for that play and everything. I'm telling you, it's really cool because you walk up, you call it, you get it blocked, you see, you're looking down the field after you see the ball's gone. Lands in his hands and it's a touchdown. It's one of the most unbelievable experiences. But you don't really process that stuff until after the game because, as football it is, you move on to the next play really quick. So
now, being the Grey Cup, you've got 3 of them now with 3 different teams.
Yep.
Personally, I know you may have the recency bias, and that's fine if you do. But in your opinion, where does this Grey Cup rank among the 2 others that you won?
Honestly, I got to say this is number 1. And like you said, you can say it's because of the bias, the fact that I still play for the Alouettes. But I'm telling you, nothing was sweeter than coming into this season, everyone thinking we were probably going to be the worst team, really a rebuild team. And then, for us to catch stride at the end of the way we did, and then, walk into Toronto in the Eastern Final. And, defense played an amazing game that game. That was one of probably the best defensive performances I've ever seen. Go into Toronto, get a big win there, And, a lot of people would be like, what, that's an amazing thing in its own to be, what people were saying was one of the greatest CFL teams ever. And then, we went out to Hamilton against Winnipeg, who, has been a powerhouse for the last 4 or 5 years, and get a win there, man. I'm telling you, that was super sweet. And like you said, for this to be the first Grey Cup in Montreal in 14 years, what a special, I guess it was 13 after that, but what an amazing thing. Like you said, that was such a special game to be a part of. And, me and my family still talk about that all the time. Like, that was one of the craziest games. My parents have that, have it recorded on their TV at home, and the amount of times we've watched that game over and over again is just something crazy.
Now, was it a little surreal considering that the year before you were on Toronto winning the Grey Cup?
Yeah.
And then a year later, you're in Montreal facing that same Toronto team to go to the Grey Cup. Like, how does one process all of that?
I'm telling you, it's a lot. And, that's life in general. I think people figure that out, but it's always hard to take that leap of faith into doing something. And, I took the leap of faith in coming to Montreal. And like I said, I had a chance to play against Montreal in 2022 a handful of times. And I knew it was a really special team, and I wanted to be a part of something special. And they gave me a great opportunity to come here. And I'm telling you, it was like you said, it's always sweet to be in those games and win those games. But to win against your former team, like you said, when you took that leap of faith, was something very cool. And like I said, that's still one of the coolest experiences of my life. And in hindsight, it was one of the best decisions I ever made.
What was the defining moment where you said, you know what, I am going to sign with the Alouettes?
The biggest thing for me, and I think any player wants this, is they just want to feel like they're very welcome and very loved, and, feel like they want to be a focal point of the team. And from day one, when free agency opened, the tampering period was allowed. Just talking with my agent, Montreal just showed a lot of love. And I feel like they, made me feel like they want to be a big part of this team going forward and in the future. And I thought that was a big thing. And the nice thing about it is my agent, Fred, he's located here in Montreal, has a very close relationship with Danny Machocha. So I knew what I was getting myself into. And, my university O-line coach, Tim Princeton, one of Jason Moss's better friends. So, he reached out to me and he's like, you know what, if you go to Montreal, I'm put my honest word on it that you're going to love every bit of piece of Jason Moss. He's one of the most genuine men you'll ever meet, and he'll give you his all every single day. And like you said, I trusted that guy with my life, and he told me what he felt about him. And like you said, it was a great thing for me. So I loved having that relationship and having that love from them that they wanted me to be part of the future here.
And now you're, being the center for the Owls, your name now goes into that long list of very well-known Canadians who've played center, not only for the Alouettes, but also in the CFL. I mean, just look at the pedigree of the guys who came before you. I mean, is it obviously you as a player wanted to play your own game, but have you ever gone and just looked at the history of the centers within the Alouette franchise?
Yeah, absolutely, I have. And I know that's a big part of it because I know, like you said, out of all the teams that have had a long run of centers, have really good careers in the CFL, it's been Montreal. Luke, obviously, being our O-line coach, I got to experience that firsthand every single day, see everything he did. Last year, I got to spend my time with Sean Jameson, who did an amazing job out here, was one hell of a player. Funny thing about it was Brian Chu was actually my agent, Fred. That's who he named his company after, was his first client, was a big-time center out here. So, like I said, I've got a good taste of the history and everything that's been, especially just in not even centers, but O-linemen in general out here in Montreal. It's been an amazing thing. And like I said, even when I was a kid, I love CFL football. Once I got into football, I really love CFL football. And I always remember watching the days of AC and that O-line with the Montreal Alouettes dominate. I thought it was such a cool thing to watch.
Not to mention, you're wearing number 54, which belongs to arguably one of the best O-linemen this team has ever had in Jeff Parrott. And also an Alberta boy as well. So, I mean, I feel in some way you're kind of carrying on the lineage, if you will.
Yeah, proudly, man. Like I said, it's an honor to be wearing some of these numbers. Like you said, for me to wear 54 like that is an amazing honor. Because like you said, it's always good to acknowledge the people who come before you and establish a number like that. So like you said, it's a great thing.
And I tell you, having Christian Matt alongside of you as well. I mean, someone else who also played center for the Alouettes. And no doubt, I'm sure had a helping hand in making sure that you became the man, the quarterback of the O-line, if you will.
Yep. No, Christian's a great guy. Honestly, I look at it last year joining the team, and like I said, this being my third team now, I've kind of experienced it firsthand. But Christian is one of those guys that is such a selfless leader. And what I love about it, he's kind of set the standard for this O-line room and the way we kind of go about ourselves. But this is a great, great, great team and a great unit to walk into. As a rookie, I feel like we do a good job of helping everyone kind of get in the right path, accepting people for who they are, and bringing them along the way. And that's one of the things that starts with Christian, because like I said, I came as a new guy last year, and sometimes it can be a little weird, going into a new locker room, getting to know people. But those guys did an amazing job of welcoming me right away last year. And I felt like, after a couple of days of camp, we were already a super close group. So that's kind of a contest to him and the guys, around him. Phil Gaillon, P.O., Nick Callender, Jamar, all those guys have been so good to me. So, like I said, it's a contest to him because he's the oldest guy there and he kind of set the standard for everyone.
I at least have to ask, because we're talking about the other stuff before, is that what is your current contract status with the Owls?
So I'm during the offseason, I extended through 2025. So I got 2 more years under my contract here. So, yep.
Nice.
It was good. I was through 24 and then talked with them during the offseason. And like you said, I had such a blast last year and I loved everything. And that, I wanted to be here for the long run. So we extended during the offseason. And like I said, I was pumped for that.
I did notice too, and Cliff and I were noticing, because sometimes you can watch the CFL transaction wire, and there are slight modifications to. And I'll use Davis Alexander as an example, where it looks like a lot of the guys may have made some modifications to their contract or whatever it was to help the team in itself. Shows that everybody seems to be, and using the word buying in, Justin, it doesn't seem to be doing it justice, but buying the book that Coach Moss is selling, I think it seems to, from everybody that we've talked to, is that you guys really understand and really believe what Coach Moss is teaching you guys.
Absolutely. And firsthand experience, I'll tell you, it is nothing like you've ever experienced before in the CFL. And I can tell you no one is doing it how we are doing it. If you spent 10 minutes in a locker room with us, listening to a team meeting, a general meeting, you would want to buy that book too, because I'm telling you, it very seldomly can someone get you to run through a wall every single day of practice, and that is that man. And I think everyone loves about that. He brings energy every day. And like I said, I know our coaches spend a long, long time game planning, prepping, getting us in the best position. But for him to show up every single day with the energy he does, especially from the start at general meetings, it's a great thing. And I'm telling you, people would love to have that experience, because for us as players, it's a great thing. And he always emphasizes us as outworking everyone, showing up every day, getting the job done and working our butts off. And I'm telling you, it's a cool thing to be a part of. Listen to him talk, the way he motivates us. It's a really cool thing. So like you said, everyone's buying in. And, as a team, that's the biggest thing you can do, is just buy into what's being preached to you.
Yeah, I got a feeling, though, if we were in Coach Moss's meeting, I think after 10 minutes, he'd be throwing the book at us and telling us to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, well, maybe. You should see, we're as serious as we are and how hard we work, we're a goofy group, so we might be able to get away with it.
We'd be quiet. We just want to listen. We just want to learn. But, coaches, right?
Yeah, I feel you.
You actually mentioned it, and it's a great segue because it moves us on to what you guys are doing so far this year in 2024, Justin. You happen to mention practice, and I at least have to ask, because I know Joey Alfieri tweeted about it today, and it seems to be that every type of weather that you guys can practice in, you've all had so far this year. Less, but we'll see what happens coming up, obviously in the winter months. But what is it like as a player practicing, whether it be in rain, whether it be in the brutal heat that we've had this year? In general, I guess you can speak for the team itself, but I mean, what is it like for you, especially a big man, having to, are you the type of plays like, oh God, it's raining, or it's like, you know what, let's just practice and let's get this thing done?
Yeah, it's like you say, we've been all over the map, but especially like you said with the weather out here. But our thought process is, as hot as it may be, as much rain as may be pouring down on us, if it's cold, anything that's going on, at the end of the day, that's going to make us better, because the way we look at it, the last couple of days of practice, today excluded, have been scorching hot, super humid. But, at the end of the day, the game could very well be the same thing as that. And so for us, the way we look at it is, as hard as it may be to get through a practice and, all the reps we take, with the heat glaring on us like that. All it is really doing is prepping us for a game, because if we get into a game where it's super hot and we have to be well conditioned to that heat, we're ready for that, because we just, did a practice that had, close to amount of the same reps that we might have in a game. And I think that's really good for our prep and everything we do. And I know, like I said, our big thought process behind everything is we're going to do everything we can, rain, snow, everything. As long as we're allowed to be out there, we're going to be out there bearing the weather. And I think that's a good thing for us. Makes us tough players and helps us push through adversity, like you said, when it comes to the weather side of things.
Especially with the number of injuries you guys have suffered this year. I mean, like, conditioning has to be important. So that's something else that you have to practice as well, is making sure you stay in shape, make sure you stay hydrated, especially on like those hot, humid days. Like, just, it's all part of the experience, if you will, as far as practice goes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it. It's like you said, conditioning your body. I find it's one of those things, and I think a lot of people will tell you this, is sometimes putting yourself in extreme positions for your preparation will help prepare you in case it's not that bad in a game. So like you said, you go through a whole week of practice, you're practicing in plus 30 all week. You're tired out there, you're hot, you're still pushing through the mental side of things, and you get to a game and it's 23 and not super hot out there. I'm telling you, you're feeling great because you just prepped that whole week. Having that, weather side of things affecting you. Now you're in a game and you don't have that to think about. So you're clear-minded and everything's flowing for you. So I think that's a big part of preparation, a big part of the experience in general.
All right. Now let's pivot into this 2024 season. You guys are off to a ridiculous start. I mean, now the hunters have become the hunted, but at the same time, you're just turning everybody aside for the most part. I mean, talk about this hot start, how things have going with you guys, and do you just feel like it's just a continuation of last season, or is this truly a new chapter and it's just what you've expected all along?
Yeah, I feel like this is a new chapter. I think since we moved on to training camp in 2024, I feel like this is a new team in a new year. We don't really, obviously last year was so amazing. Everything that happened was great. But the way we look at it is we don't have the same team as we did last year. And this is a new year. And the way we got to look at it is, like you said, we want to be the hunters and not the hunted. So for us, it's like you say, keeping our foot on the pedal is the biggest thing for us. And the thing is, we want to be a great team, man. Like we want to be one of those teams that can be have our own banner, another banner raised. So we're working for that. And the way we look at it is, like, the only way we're going to do that is if we outwork everyone and push even further than what we did last year even. So for us, it's just reaching that next step. And, I said, like, we've been doing a good job. A lot of injuries, like you said, but that's a part of football, and everyone knows that. And we always look at it, the guys who are, stepping up in place of those who are injured, those are the guys in the hangar during the season. So they're in the hangar prepping all year, waiting for their opportunity. And the minute they get put on the roster, they're ready to roll for us, just like anyone who was started on the active roster was.
Well, talking about this coming Friday, I mean, one of those guys that was sort of waiting in the wings, waiting for his opportunity, Davis Alexander, you're going to be handing off the ball to him for every snap. How excited are you to see him finally get the opportunity to show what he's been able to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazingly excited. Like I said, I got to know Davis last year, spending time with him. Got to know his history, coming into the Alouettes and everything he's been through. I'm telling you, I couldn't be more proud of the guy and everything he did in that game, because, like you said, I spent the last year and a half watching this guy practice, scout team, everything, taking the reps, but not getting too many, like you said, serious reps in a game. And he made the most of the opportunity. And that's what any sports league is about, is when you get an opportunity, no matter how long that may take, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, when you get that opportunity, take the most of it. And he did an amazing job. And, for us as an O-line, we're confident whoever's back there at quarterback that we're going to get it done. But I love the way he comes in and he handles everything super well. He's super poised and super confident. And I think that's a great thing for him. And I think he's going to keep carrying that forward when he's playing. I
was going to say, just I'm sure like a lot of people, like a lot of younger quarterbacks being thrown into that situation, it's where you see you either sink or swim, right? Like you're either going to rise to the occasion or you're going to fold to the pressure. So Davis, give him all the credit in the world, man. He stepped up in a big way. And I have no doubt in my mind, you guys backing him up, or I guess in front of him, gave him everything that he was able to do, all the tools to succeed. I'm sure a lot of that came from you guys as well. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like I said, whoever's back there, we're going to do whatever we can to give those guys the best opportunity to succeed.
And like I said, we're just pumped. Like as you know, we don't have no stats on the no line. What we want to see is other people doing well. So whether the running back's doing well, receivers doing well, quarterback's doing well, that's what we want to see. So when someone's doing well like that, that makes our day, and that's what we look forward to. Is like letting people have their spotlight and giving them the opportunity to have that spotlight as well.
It's funny you mentioned no stats for O linemen. Does that bother you a little bit, other than like the thick six or throwing a nice pancake block or anything like that? Like, does it bother you that there's no real O line stats?
Honestly, not really. I think that's the beautiful thing about the O line is you got to be a selfless guy because, like you said, no kid when they're younger wants to be like, you know what, I really want to be an O lineman when I grow up. It's one of those things you grow into the role and you become proud of it because at the end of the day, no one may know how good you're doing because of the stats besides the guys in your locker room. And that's the beautiful thing about it. Your coaches, the guys in the locker room know the work that we're putting in as O-line, the efforts that we go through to try and pick stuff up, get guys in good positions. And I think that's the best part about playing O-line. It's kind of like the hidden work of it all the time. And you get the great success, like you said, when you get in team wins and stuff like that, guys are doing well. You feel like you're a part of that. Like it's their individual success, but you feel like you're a part of their success in the long run there.
I think if anything, I think they do have at least one stat, Cliff. It would be, how many sacks that you guys don't give up. And considering the difference this year between the O-line in 24 versus 23, obviously, as we know, the Owls quarterbacks have been upright a hell of a lot more than they were in 2023. So I will give you guys those stats, because, whether he sacked or not, unfortunately, as you know, as we both know, it is on the O-line unless,
Yeah, that's the thing about it is, like you said, that's really probably right. The only stat we have is sacks allowed. So like you said, the only stat we have, we don't want to be on the stat board.
Well, listen, as Tim said, y'all haven't been giving up very many, if any at all. I mean, it also helps too that it seems like every chance he gets, Cody's running for his life. So I mean, it's can't sack what you can't catch, right? So
yeah, no, that's the good thing about it. When those guys are calm back there, so in a situation where they need to get out, they see the lane and they take it. And that's what we love to see too. Is those guys out there getting some yards, and we'll support them along the way.
Well, obviously, before we let you go, we know you have Hamilton coming up back to back. For you as a player, what's it like playing, playing the same team for 2 times in a row? And obviously, it's a CFL thing. We get that. But what's it like playing the same team back to back? And how are you going into this game versus on this Friday?
Yeah, it's exciting to have a back-to-back with the team. The way I look at it is, this is going to be our first matchup of the season on Friday. And, that'll be the big one. It's going to be a feeler and out game where, we get to really test our people against theirs. And the cool thing about it is, regardless of the result, hopefully a win for us. We get to next week, we get to go back and play them again. So, we had just planned against those guys. We just played against them. So, that's fresh in our heads. And now it's, instead of just a feeling out process, now it's a battle of the Titans. And, you can kind of see who can come out on top again. Because I'm telling you, one of the hardest things to do in football is to win back-to-back games against the same team. So that's something we're really looking forward to doing, and the challenge of doing that is exciting to us.
Outstanding. Justin, before we let you go, I got to ask, besides winning another Grey Cup and maybe finally getting that thick six, what else are you looking forward to doing in 2024 for the Alouettes this year?
Hey, honestly, I'm looking to have a great year, finish out the rest of the season strong. And like you said, when it comes to November, I want to come home with another Grey Cup and celebrate with my friends and family. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing.
Listen, back to back. I mean, technically, you did go back to back and winning Grey Cups, but why not make it a three-peat for yourself, right?
I agree, 100%. And like you said, it's super sweet. I'm telling you, that parade in Montreal last year was one of the coolest things in my life I've ever been a part of. And I know if we win it this year again, it's going to be even more special. So like I said, I can't wait to bring the cup back to Montreal, hopefully this year again. And we're going to have a big old party out here.
100%. All right. Justin, where do we find you on social media? Where can the people follow J-Law?
Yeah, you can find me on pretty much every social media platform, Instagram, Twitter mostly. My handle is @TheRealJLaw55. And like you said, I'm on there. People can reach out to me. I'm always around, active on social media. So please reach out to me and message me with anything you need.
All right. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard the man. Give him a follow. Show him the love, for crying out loud. Justin, thank you so much for joining us here on the Alouettes Flight Deck. We appreciate you. We're looking forward to seeing you do your thing as always, and just keep doing what you're doing, man, because it's clearly working.
I appreciate you guys having me on, man. It's great chatting with you guys. I got to give you guys a big shout out for bringing me the Grey Cup confetti. That was a huge thing for me. Something I've always liked to do, and I somehow forgot during the Grey Cup. Maybe caught up in the emotions, but I appreciate you guys bringing that. So appreciate you guys and everything you do.
Alrighty. Take it easy, man.
You're right in your intro. We've wanted to have him. We usually see him post game, and we're able to chat with him usually. And obviously, I'm such not seeing a tall guy versus me. It's such a shorter guy. I still feel I still feel small. But I mean, it was great having him on and hearing hearing about the perspective when it comes to being an O lineman, because we can, as we said, we got to give the O line a little bit of love here on the show. But it's just seeing his perspective when it comes to being a guy who's able to, as you said, be the actual quarterback of the O-line itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin is just what a breath of fresh air. And let's be real if we can for a second here. The center position is a tough one for anybody, and Montreal has had an embarrassment of riches when it comes to centers. You talk about the Brian Shoes, Luc Bourdon-Jourdain, Christian Matt, even Sean Jameson. Like, a lot of guys have lined up under center, and it is not easy to do. For Justin to come in as a free agent last year and basically step into that role immediately and not look out of place, not look like, oh, okay, can we trust this guy? Do we know what he's going to? No, he put all that to rest right away. Did an outstanding job. Was an integral part of the Alouettes, helped winning that Grey Cup championship in 2023. And he's not done yet, folks. I mean, he's got 3 Grey Cup rings, and he's looking for a 4th. He wants to go back to back to back. So, once again, we are so thankful to have Justin on the show. Anytime he wants to come back on the flight deck and chop it up with us, we'll be more than happy to have him on.
We are on social media. There are many places you can find us. You can find us over on X at Alouettes FL Deck. You can find us over on Facebook at Alouettes Flight Deck Pod. You can also follow us at Instagram and YouTube at Alouettes Flight Deck. Speaking of YouTube, you can also find the audio version. You can find the video version of this show, and you can also find our companion post game show of Flight Deck Live. All episodes will be there live. All you got to do is just make sure that you when you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, check off the bell to know that receive the notification of when we're going to go live, just like we will after the game this week versus the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So make sure you check out all those things there. And by the way, if you want to check out any of the past episodes, going all the way back to the very beginning, maybe listen to that Davis Alexander episode, which you may have missed. Head over to www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. And also, if you're looking to pick up some merch for the pod and rep it proudly, including our all-time favorite seller of the Cartoon Bird 56 T-shirt, head over to www.flightdeckgear.ca. And also, as we had announced on social media this week, if you are interested in getting one of the custom-made Cartoon Bird 56 head caps, make sure you reach out to us specifically at contact@alouettesflightdeck.ca. $60. That includes shipping already. We need to at least, to have that particular price, we need to have at least 10. So again, email us at that email address if you're interested, and hopefully we can get to that 10 and get you guys those unique one-of-a-kind caps.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, I'm not a hat guy, but they are definitely beautiful hats. If you were at the game last Thursday, you saw Tim rocking the hat and looks amazing. I mean, as nice as it is in photos, it doesn't even do it justice. You got to see it live, and you will not be sorry. If you invest the $60, get this hat. $60 Canadian, by the way, for our American friends.
Yes.
So that's what, 45 US, give or take?
Ish. Yeah.
So, and listen, we'll ship anywhere. You just let us know, and we're going to make this happen. We want to see everybody get on board with this, because, I mean, if you're a hat guy, I'm not a hat guy, but if you're a hat guy, you need to get one of these. And I couldn't think of a better way to show the love for the podcast by ordering one of these hats. And listen, they're a conversation starter. I mean, Tim, how many people came up and talk to you about the hat, like how excited they were to see it, like how cool it looks. I mean, listen, it's a great logo. It's a great hat. I mean, folks, come on, get on board with this, won't you?
Speaking of, yeah, I was wearing our Cartoon Bird 56 shirt and the cap actually to the Alouette season ticket season ticket member get together on Sunday. Gorgeous Sunday, by the way.
Hot
It
as
was
heck,
a
though.
hell of a lot. Huh?
It was hot as heck, though. The
Yeah.
humidity was crazy, but
I know. It was, better than last year's when it was raining like cats and dogs, and a kind of a different event. There was no practice, and we were speaking with a couple of the players, and a couple of them actually were expressing interest to actually have had a practice and then do some of the stuff afterwards. But it was something different that they wanted to do, and I think it went over well. They changed things on the fly. They were going to do these, these Q&A sessions with the players, Cliff, but they saw how much the fans were enjoying getting autographs and meeting their team that they decided to go ahead and scrap that and just continue with, why pull them away from doing something that seems like everybody was loving?
yeah.
So I mean, I can't fault them for making that change. I can't fault them for making the change.
Yeah, and truthfully, as fun as a Q&A session could be, you tend to learn a lot of different things from these sort of sessions, but if you've got the player right there in front of you while you're taking that selfie or getting his autograph, ask him the question right there. I mean, what are they going to say? No, we're not allowed to talk to the fans? Give me a break. That's not happening. Like, to me, I think that was a smart move on their part to scrap the Q&A and just give the fans, the season ticket holders, the investors, if you will, the supporters, give them a chance to really get to know these players, get to talk to them, take those pictures, get the autographs, get a chance to get to know them. And I like to think we were able to do that. We got to talk to a lot of the guys, a couple of guys that we finally got to meet for the first time. First one I'm going to mention, Arthur Hamlin, draft pick for the Alouettes this year. What a great kid. I mean, my goodness, like just very engaging, very open. Like, we were able to talk about the fact that we saw him in training camp. And like, okay, we were very impressed. I saw his film after the draft. Like, oh, okay, now I know why the Alouettes drafted him, because he's a stud. I mean, he's someone that, given the opportunity, is going to make a lot of noise. Unfortunately, started the year on the 6-game injured list, and he even said it was a freak injury that happened in his hometown of Ottawa, of all places, during the second preseason game. But he's off the list now. He's ready to go. He's ready to contribute, and he was just talking up how awesome it was to be able to sit and get knowledge from like a Marc-Antoine Dequoy, who he'll be spelling if, God forbid, Dequoy goes down to injury. But learning lots, and that's the thing. Like, he's learning lots. He's going to pay his dues on special teams this year. But folks, this is a young man that you got to be excited about, because just based on his film alone, you'd be excited to see him. But to actually see him in actual game action for the Alouettes, I think, once again, give it 2-3 years, get a chance for him to really get his legs underneath him. I think you're going to be very impressed with what Arthur Hamlin's going to bring to this Alouettes team. So very happy to be able to speak with him, to finally meet him, say hello to him, and just let him know that, hey, we're paying attention to you, dude. So, we've been hyping you up, so don't make us look foolish.
I was able to speak with our backup quarterback. Our third, I guess we can call him for the week, our third string quarterback, James Morgan, to try to just pick his head a little bit and see what he's thinking about the city of Montreal and what he's learned and stuff like that. And even though he is on the practice roster, has been on the practice roster basically all the year, Cliff, he's like every other player that's been there. They're all buying. It's hard to say that. Again, I did it in the interview there with Justin too. It's like, you're not buying into what Coach Moss is selling you, but they're believing in what Coach is teaching them. And it's good to see, whether, no matter if you're on the practice roster or you're one of the superstars on the team, you're all on the same page. And it was refreshing to hear, and refreshing to hear what his what he was thinking about the city and thinking about the team.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a learning experience for a lot of these guys that are here for the first time, and for the guys that were a part of this championship team last year, to me, it's still the idea that this is still going on. The party is still going, in the sense that we know what it takes to win a Grey Cup championship. and we're on that same track. We're proving that this isn't a fluke. And to me, if I'm a fan, if I'm a supporter of this franchise, I'm feeling good knowing that, okay, this team is 6-1, but it's not by accident. It's not a fluke that this team is 6-1. Like, this team is built to compete. This team is built to win, and that's exactly what they're doing. And as you said, these players have whatever Coach Boss is selling, they're buying. I mean, they are invested, and I think that's what it comes down to, is being invested in this opportunity, being invested in this franchise, this organization as a whole. The coaches are invested, the players are invested, the administrations, like, everybody is working towards the same goal, to get another Grey Cup, and they are well on their way in doing so. I mean, I know it's only a third of the season's already gone by. It's crazy to think that, even, but I mean, this team is dialed in. This team is focused. I mean, I fully expect. I mean, when they go to Hamilton this weekend, I fully expect this team to be on the same page. Even if Cody Fajardo isn't the one behind center leading this team, even if it is Davis Alexander coming in and being able to show off what he can do. I mean, listen, we saw what he was able to do against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, arguably the second best team in the Canadian Football League. And I mean, they didn't dummy them. They didn't, walk all over them. Like, they had to fight for this win against Saskatchewan. But I guarantee you, Saskatchewan's looking at Montreal and like, man, this is not easy by any stretch. And I think that's how you have to look at it, is this is a team that's going to compete. They're not going to win every game. Let's make that very clear. It would be great if they go 17-1. Hopefully they don't go 16-2, because we know, unfortunately, what happens in that instance. Either win 17 games or 15. Don't go 16-2. That's if we learned nothing else last season, don't go 16-2. But this team is built to win. This team is built to compete. And each and every week, you know that this team is going to give its best effort. They are locked in. They are dialed in. They are focused. And they are going out there with one goal in mind: 1-0 every week.
We were told that there was approximately between 700 and 800 people who had reserved to come to the event. Everybody was there. If you walked around, you got to talk to everybody, whether it be Joe Fieri, whether it be Danny Machocha, whether it be Brian Waitman, whether it be Mark Waitman. They were all there, and they were all glad to speak with you, just as the players were also. It wasn't the perfect event in any way, shape, or form, I will admit, Cliff. I mean, yes, it was a little bit hot. It was held on the Esplanade over the Big O. If anybody doesn't know, that's basically been turned into a isn't that where they hold the First Fridays when it comes to the food trucks? I
think so. I mean,
potentially, but anyways, it's
set up as more of a meeting place too. Like sort of, if you want to do a gathering or a social event or something like that, that's where you would do it. So, and I'm guessing with that in mind, and also too with the construction going on, like, I guess the reason why they couldn't have practice at Olympic Stadium is because of the construction that's going on around it for the annex field that's between Stade Saputo and Olympic Stadium, where normally the Alouettes would be practicing, but they're not this year because of all the construction that's going on. And I guess as a result, the thought is, we can't have practice, but we can still do our meet and greet here. So what better place to do it, especially if the weather's nice, than to do it in the Esplanade? And I mean, by and large, it was great. I mean, I think a lot of people were there, had a good time, had a great time even. And even if it wasn't perfect,
even if you wanted pizza.
Yeah, if you that was one thing. The Alouettes were very nice in being able to give out, food and beverages to everybody that attended, which is great. I think they severely underestimated how many people were going to be there, which I don't see how you could, because if you're giving, even if it's virtual tickets, like, how many tickets are being used and how many people had RSVP'd to say that they were going. You kind of plan that. You kind of take that into consideration when you have the food trucks. Like, it just felt like they didn't tell the company that was providing the pizza how many people were going to be showing up, because they were not prepared for the number of people. And if you wanted a slice of pizza, you were waiting and waiting and waiting.
That was the problem.
Yeah. So that's the thing. If you know that let's say that if the numbers are correct, 700 to 800 people were there, then plan for that. Like, if you didn't know better, you'd swear that they thought maybe only 100 people were going to show up for this thing. Like, that was the setup that they had for that. That's what it was giving that kind of vibe. It was like, we didn't know we were going to be this many people, because I mean, standing around like an hour plus to get a slice of pizza is preposterous. And okay,
And standing around to get a piece of pizza, technically after the event had ended.
Yeah, I give credit to this company. Their name escapes me right now, but I mean they are the official pizza provider for the Alouettes. So if you weren't there and you want to try their pizza, you can do so on game day, and it was actually pretty decent pizza. But yeah, I mean, it's just for them to stick around and make sure that everybody who wanted a slice of pizza got one is great.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you're standing around waiting for a slice of pizza, like it doesn't compute. You know, like it just comes across as really disorganized. And I mean, you got to be better than that. Simply put, like you shouldn't be standing around waiting for free food. I mean, you know bloody well people are going to line up for free stuff.
Phil and Fred Pizzeria.
There you go. And I have to tell you, Tim, really decent pizza. I have to say.
I was just about to say, yeah, and they are in stadium, folks. So at the next home game, go ahead and give them a try. It may not be free pizza, but at least it was, it was available, and hopefully they can figure stuff out for next year. The ice cream truck left because it ran out of ice cream, but it stayed there longer than it stayed there longer.
And
because it actually didn't have any more.
Yeah, so. And with it being as hot as what it was, there was a kiosk with free beverages as well, and which is a great thing because when it was 30 plus degrees, you want to make sure everybody stays hydrated, and bottles of water, soda. I think they even had beer too.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Which again, 18 plus, why not? I mean, where else are you going to go and get to meet Alouettes players, interact with fellow fans and supporters, and get free beer? I mean, what an event. I mean, if that doesn't convince you to become a season ticket holder, between that and all the other perks and privileges that come with being a season ticket member of the Alouettes, I don't know what to tell you, folks. I mean, they say membership has its privileges, and quite frankly, events like this definitely make it well worth the while to get off the fence and say, yeah, I want to be on board with this team. I want to be a season ticket holder. I don't want to miss a thing.
And speaking of season ticket holders, we were speaking with Brian Waitman. He did say, if you haven't gotten already, make sure that you, as Alouette supporters, do fill out your yearly, the yearly
survey.
The yearly survey, because it does matter. Whether you think or not, I can tell you with 100% certainty, it does matter. That your answers, they do. That's how they gauge these home games. Let's cut down last year's home games, Thursday home games by 1, please.
2 maybe. I mean, you know what, Tim. One thing I would say though, the Thursday, if you absolutely have to have a Thursday night game, I'm actually not opposed to the one game being the home opener. I think we've kind of gotten into that, and it sort of ties into the whole Saint Jean Baptiste Fête de Quebec holiday, that if you want to do it, if the timing is right for that to be at the same time of the holiday, I'm not completely mad at that. But more than one Thursday game, no. And don't give me this nonsense that it doesn't work for the rest of the league, because Winnipeg is playing Thursday night, and they sold out 30,000 seats. And I'm sure they're going to make the argument that, well, why can't every other team do that? Like, well, not every market's the same, and Montreal is definitely not the same. I mean, the fact that we got just under 20,000 for that Thursday night game against Saskatchewan, to me, that's impressive. And is that because the Alouettes are the reigning undisputed Grey Cup champions? Maybe. Is because the Saskatchewan Roughriders were in town and those fans like to show up and show out? Maybe that too. I mean, I did see a fair bit of green, not as much as we've seen in years past, but I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like the Thursday night games, you tolerate them. I mean, it's great if you're watching them at home, but if you're a fan trying to attend, and God forbid you don't live in the city proper, if you're trying to travel out of province or further into the province, like if you're 4 or 5 hours away, you really got to plan things out. Like you're taking a day off, you're taking 2 days off of work essentially. You're taking off the Thursday and the Friday, because even if you do the round trip and back, I mean, do you think you're still going to go to work afterwards?
Yeah, I know. I know what you mean. But obviously, as Cliffy said, there are perks. Obviously, what's interesting too, Cliff, is that because of us being there and seeing all the players, we were actually able to see Cody Fajardo. And as we found out this week, as he was on the sixth game, he had been placed on the sixth game with an injury to his hamstring. He was pulled off. And I think it surprised a few of us actually to see that he was taken off. We don't know, we know the ramifications are when it comes to the salary cap, because once you pull somebody off, you got to pay them their full salary. That's no big deal. That's to me that's a so what. But it so far leading up to the game versus Hamilton, which by the way the Alouettes are currently favored by 4.5, that we still have 4 quarterbacks on the roster. We did know that Cody did not practice at all this week. He was very, very limited. And as we were saying before at the beginning of the show, we expect Davis Alexander to be under center and to get his first CFL start. You and I have been going back and forth on this Cody thing. We understand the reasoning, and you and I think are in agreement when it comes to that. He should get at least one more week behind, not active. We'll see what tomorrow, once the depth charts come out, where he's actually placed. I would suspect, even though on today's final practice report that he was listed as being available, that Cody will be placed on a 1 game. Would not be surprised, but I could be wrong. We will find out in approximately 14 hours, give or take, from when we are taping this.
Right.
What are your thoughts on this in keeping and how they brought Cody back, and then we certainly don't know what his status is going to be officially until Thursday?
It's baffling in the sense that, well, what if he's not as injured as what was originally stated? Then why did you 6-game him? I guess that would be the first question I'd be asking, and would love to get the answer to, like, some sort of justification as to why you put him on the 6-game list initially, only to take him off essentially a week later. I mean, that's essentially, I think he spent basically 1 week on the 6-game list. I mean, that's it. I mean, yes, you can pull off, you can pull a player off anytime. That's one of the things that they mention over and over again, is that yes, you can't, just because they're on the 6-game list doesn't mean they have to stay on the 6-game list for the entire duration. You can pull them off anytime, but to me, it's just baffling. More than anything else, it's just baffling that they 6-gamed Cody and then take him off a week later for reasons. I guess that's the only thing I think, because again, I will be absolutely positively floored if Davis Alexander does not start the game against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Caleb Evans as the backup, James Morgan as the 3rd string, emergency quarterback, what do you want to call it? I just don't see a scenario where Cody Fajardo makes the trip to Hamilton with the intention of playing a football game. I definitely see him going there to support his quarterbacks, but I do not see him dressing and being an active participant in the game. I sure as hell don't see him starting, especially if he hasn't practiced all week. But even listing him as a 3rd stringer, for whatever reason, still doesn't pass the smell test as far as I'm concerned. It's one of those moves that I wish I had a better answer for, and I'm sure there are people in a much better position that could explain this to us, and I would love if they did, because on the surface, you're just asking yourself, why? Just why? Like, what was the motivation of putting him on the 6-game list? I mean, if he's not as injured as he was, great. Why not just leave him on there? Just, if only to not muddy the waters as far as, will Davis Alexander be playing? Will he be starting and playing in this game, or won't he? Is it back to being Cody Fajardo's team? To me, that just creates all these doubts and uncertainties that, quite frankly, aren't needed at this point. You saw what Davis Alexander was able to do. I mean, if you don't have faith in him by now, then something is terribly wrong. We saw what he was able to do against Saskatchewan. There's no doubt in my mind that he will play this game on Friday, and he will be that guy once again. Simply put, there's nothing that leads me to believe that he's like a one-trick pony, or he was just lucky. There's nothing about that with him. Just with the preparation that he's done and the way he's carried himself over the past couple of years, there's no reason to believe that Davis Alexander will not be a starting quarterback in this league in the future. at the very least, starting the game this Friday against Hamilton. To me, it's just bizarre. I don't know why they did it. Like, I mean, especially if you're going to take him off the 6 game, only to put him back on the 1 game list. It just doesn't compute. You know what I mean?
And again, we'll find out tomorrow once the depth charts actually do come out. Obviously they're going up against Bo Levi. Bo Levi in his history, Cliff, is 7-4 versus Montreal. But that's which Bo. Bo hasn't been Bo for the past couple of years with all of his injuries, et cetera, et cetera. But Bo's looked good over the last couple of weeks. But mind you, it's also been the opponents that he's gone up against. What do the Alouettes defense have to do in order to basically nullify what Bo Levi can do, get them to try to run the ball, and hope that the Owls defense is not as porous as it has been the last 2 weeks?
Well, and again, maybe it does speak to the quality of opponent that Bo Levi has been facing, but I mean, he's been able to stretch the field big time, and I think this Alouette secondary is relishing an opportunity for that. We haven't seen any ball hawking lately from Marc-Antoine Dequoy, from Kebianento, Najee Murray. I mean, we haven't seen that it's been a little while since we've seen someone just snag a ball out of the air, which, again, Bo Levi has been known to throw like some ill-timed interceptions, especially against Montreal. So I think they're hoping that he's going to try and stretch the field again. And he did a great job against Edmonton in doing so. Like he really got major yak yards. Oh, I did it again.
Yeah, you got on me for it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so if you want to yell, go ahead and yell.
Nah, I'll give you a pass this time. I'll just keep that one in my back pocket.
As you should. But yes, Bo Levi has done a tremendous job over the past couple of weeks, because I truly thought he was washed after that I think the first 2 games that Hamilton played. He did not look good at all. And yeah, Hamilton started 0-5, and I won't blame him necessarily for it, but I mean, at the same time, you expect certain things out of a quarterback, especially a veteran like Bo Levi Mitchell, who has done incredible things in this league and is a first ballot Hall of Famer. But he just, like that, the first half of the first third of the season, he just looked terrible to start, then got kind of middling, and now past 2 weeks, Hamilton finally got their, they're now 2-5. They're on a winning streak, believe it or not. And he's looked pretty decent. He's starting to look a little bit like the old Bo Levi Mitchell. And if that's the case, then yeah, definitely be worried. Like, definitely do not take this Hamilton team lightly, because I think Bo Levi is going to want to prove that he is still that guy. And what better opportunity to do it than against the reigning, defending, undisputed Grey Cup champion Montreal Alouettes? I mean, he's got to be relishing the opportunity to go and really test himself, because it's easy to say, "Oh, well, of course you're good. You beat the Elks. You beat the Blue." No, they didn't. Did they beat the? They haven't played Blue Bombers yet. I'm sorry. I don't remember all the losses for Hamilton, but I think Bo Levi and crew wants to prove that they are for real too. They got off the schneid, and they want to keep the momentum going, especially at home, because their fans also too like to get rowdy, like to have fun, and they want to support a winning football team as well. And
Calgary,
Montreal,
Saskatchewan twice, Ottawa, and then BC.
Oh, there you go. I mean, so all this to say is, yeah, Bo Levi wants to win. He's still got to prove himself that that Father Time hasn't won yet. But I think this Alouettes defense, especially after being embarrassed, on the ground, like this run defense. I mean, if James Butler for the Tiger Cats, I think he's got to be looking at this and licking his chops just a little bit. Like he wants the opportunity to run the rock and try to run all over these guys. I mean, if Toronto can do it and Saskatchewan can do it, I can do it too. I guarantee that's what he's thinking. And simply put, this run defense really does have to tighten it up. I mean, no excuses. I mean, it's embarrassing, quite frankly, that they got stymied the way they did. And I think they're going to want to prove themselves too. I think this defense really wants to go back to being that dangerous, aggressive, blitz-heavy Noel Thorpe defense that we've come to know and love. And best way to show that things are back the way they're supposed to be, You got to shut down the James Butlers. You got to shut down those guys on the ground. And if this secondary can dash Bo Levi's hopes and dreams of lighting it up at Tim Hortons Field, then yeah, Montreal will definitely, without question, prove that they are who they say they are. You are what your record says you are. And if they can walk out of Hamilton with yet another win, go 7-1 or 1-0 for the week, but 7-1 for the season, that's just great, because once again, you're gonna be playing this team the week after here in Montreal. So it's a good opportunity to learn about this opponent, learn what they can do, what they can't do, and simply put, this Alouettes team just has to keep doing what they've been doing, because we've seen it. It works. It's not pretty all the time, but winners find a way to win. And that's what this Alouettes team is a bunch of winners.
Alouettes are 7th in the league in rushing. Hamilton is 8th. Obviously, as I said earlier in the show, I think that's one of the huge things that needs to be done. This week. Alouettes, by the way, Cliff, are giving up 100 and I think it's 118. Is that what it just says? They are giving up 110.4 rushing yards per game. Hamilton is only giving up 89.6. So those are a couple of things that I think that fans need to look at, especially this weekend, and kind of give Davis out. If Davis does start, which we are expecting, as I said, give Davis an opportunity to not be all Davis all the time, but give him a running game that could help him, change things up a little bit in the scheme of things on Friday. So.
Yeah, I mean, the one advantage is that there's very limited film on Davis, so he still has that mystery factor, I think, for a lot of opponents. I mean, that's going to change the more games he plays in, and the more that he starts in. Eventually, that's going to go away. You're going to start getting to see some real tape of this guy. But I still think he's still in that spot right now where people are like, who is this guy? And he's got to use that to his advantage. Like, you see the zip that he has on his ball. His passes are so crisp and fast. Like, he gets rid of the ball instantly. And I fully expect him to get a chance to light it up. And I tell you what, I definitely expect a lot out of Davis, because he's shown that he can do it. I mean, it's a very small sample size. I will admit that, but he's done everything that we've expected out of him leading up to him coming into relief last week. We've been clamoring for this. We've been wanting so desperately for Davis Alexander to get the opportunity to show what he can do, and he did not disappoint. If anything, he exceeded expectations. But I fully expect him to get the start on Friday against Hamilton, and I fully expect him to do what he does best. And as you saw, it's throw touchdowns. It's make plays happen. You know what? I get so many Brock Purdy vibes out of Davis Alexander. I mean, as a 49ers fan, I see so many similarities in that. And let me tell you, folks, if you've seen Brock Purdy play football, you've seen the 49ers play, like, absolutely outstanding. There's a lot of Brock Purdy in Davis Alexander. Or you can make the argument there's a lot of Davis Alexander and Brock Purdy.
Nice. There you go. Don't forget, stay tuned for all of our socials. We will be letting you know when to catch us for Flight Deck Live. Following the game in Hamilton, the game starts at 7:30, so give or take about 10:40-ish, but stay tuned again to all of our socials. And if you happen to miss any of the other episodes, please go back and check on our archive. We love to hear what you guys have to say. Leave a comment, leave a like, etc. Especially if you are watching it over on YouTube. But you can also leave us reviews wherever you're watching us on any of your podcast aggregates. We want to hear what you guys have to say about the show, positive or negative. That's all that matters. So. I hope you guys enjoy the game this week. Again, we will be seeing you guys post-game on Friday after the Alouettes Tiger Cats match. So for everybody here at Flight Deck, excuse me, I was going to say Flight Deck, for the Alouettes Flight Deck. Everybody at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.